You.
Everything on the winter boulevard.
Oh, wonderful. Could be better.
All right, we'll call a public hearing on our community development block grant order.
Oh, wonderful. Could be better.
All right, so let's call a public hearing on our community development block grant order.
Could be better.
You guys can sign in.
I am usually going, but I don't see how to, there we go. Now we should be all right. That's more better.
More better?
More better.
More better.
All right, Sharon, you want to explain to all of us what it is we're trying to do here, please?
Sure. This is the required public hearing that's necessary prior to submitting what's known as a community development block grant application. This is a planning grant through the CDBG program. And we are, with your permission tonight, applying for money again this year to conduct an engineering, to prepare an engineering report for the water system, the entire water system. An engineering report is a necessary prerequisite to being eligible for funding under CDBG, for funding under the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, for funding under the United States Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Program. If you apply for infrastructure money for any of those programs, you must have an engineering report. And that engineering report gives a detailed analysis of your water system, its deficiencies, and its priorities for improvement, and it will also give you cost estimates for those things. So the reason these programs have come about, these planning programs for these engineering feasibility studies, is because most communities our size can't afford the amount of money it takes to do a preliminary engineering report. And so because of that, many communities could not get over that barrier and become eligible for this money. The money to fix or to extend or to improve your water system. Same applies for your wastewater systems. So this program itself will provide, if we're lucky, we did this last year, by the way. They had like 43 applications and funded 9, so we're in the pipeline. But we'll give you $50,000 to perform the study, to prepare the report, and you will have to pay $2,500. So you get a $52,000 report for $2,500 that will set you up as a village for all of these other funding programs, which you're not eligible for right now because you don't have the engineering report. So what is the Community Development Block Grant Program? It's part of the New York State Consolidated Funding Application. You all know what the CFA is? So I don't have to explain that.
I think it would be good if you explained it.
Okay. The New York State Consolidated Funding Application Program bundles about, I think this year it was 13 different state agencies, 20 different programs into one consistent application, and they are always due the end of July. So CDBG is one of those programs. It's bundled into the consolidated funding application. You'll hear about another one tonight from folks who are applying for money for the Lotus, and that'll come a little later. That's also going through the CFA program, except it's a different agency. So anyway, back to Community Development Block Grant money. It's administered through the New York State Department of Homes and Community Renewal, and the money is federal though. It comes down from HUD, and HUD dictates things like pretty robust citizen participation. Hence, we're having a public hearing tonight. And this is one of the few grants where you're required to have a public hearing. The state has released $20 million in competitive grant money for things like housing rehabilitation, public facilities, it's like senior centers, things like that, and public infrastructure, and planning. Just want to tell you the maximum amount of money for each. So for public infrastructure, and that would be something you'd apply for after you had your plan in place, your study in place. The maximum amount of money for public infrastructure you can get is $1 million. And if you have what's known as a co-funding initiative, and that means that you have applied for money under the Environmental Facilities Corporation or USDA RD or WIA, which is a water infrastructure program through New York State, then they'll jump that up to $1,250,000. If you have a joint applicant, which probably won't happen here, then you're eligible for $1,750,000. But again, you've got to have this study in place. This is the non-negotiable prerequisite for this money. Public facilities, $300,000 is a maximum grant. So let's say you wanted to do, you had some ideas around a community center or making the village hall ADA compliant or something like that. You're not going to get any more than $300,000. You got to have the rest of your money in place. So, that's not a huge grant for community facilities, but they do offer some money for community facilities to put you over the top if you've already got your funding in place. And then there's planning money, which is what we're going after here with your permission. And that's a $50,000 maximum grant. And it's the only one that really requires a local match. They want you to have a little skin in the game. Not much, it's just 5%, but still, that's it. So we had a debrief call with the grant reviewers from the state after the last funding round to find out what was wrong with the grant application we submitted from last year. And the answer was really nothing. There wasn't anything wrong with it. It's it's kind of basically, they won't say this, but they were kind of saying it. It's basically get in line. And so we're in line. And I tweaked the grant again, according to their comments, updated everything, made some changes that I think may make it marginally more competitive, but it was a good application and they told us that. So, so we've done everything that we're supposed to do. And this is the last piece, which is to solicit input from the public and from the board on not just this project, but community development activities or ideas that you may have for this program. And with that, can I just ask the people who are on Zoom? It would be really, really helpful. I mean, I see Maxine, but it would be very, very helpful if you all identified yourself, because I have to sign in for you and get you on the list of people who attended the public hearing. And I don't know how to do that. Is there some way we can?
Oh, that's fair.
And everybody who's here, who just walked in, please sign in on that public hearing sign-in sheet. So anyway, did everybody hear me about that? Who's listening in the village board meeting?
Can phone one identify themselves, please? We lost one.
So they're not going to tell us who they are. All right. All right. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. I'll just put Maxine, I'll put your name down, okay?
Device.
All right.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Is that your?
Yeah, fund box.
Okay.
Any comments from anybody in the room?
Would any of these grants apply to, we have a playground project that we're working on, or We're in need, a new ambulance in the near future. Does that mean that money? When I need that money?
Public facilities, public infrastructure, community planning. They won't, this program won't fund playgrounds
But it,
or an ambulance.
would it fund a restroom facility or,
Possibly.
but it's only up to 300,000 if you were going after a community center?
Yes. It's not a huge amount of money. They really work hard to focus the money into public infrastructure. And that's why they like you to prepare with
So,
an engineering study, and that's why they're coughing up $1 million per project.
so this is just solely for our water piping that we know is old.
Your entire water system, it'll identify all the deficiencies, which you all know you've got deficiencies in the water system. This will identify them, map them out for you, and provide you the engineering information you need to be able to set a program of repairs and replacements over the next 10 to 20 years.
This is identical to what we did with the wastewater system about 10 years ago. And then we ended up borrowing money and executing that project. I think it took us about 5 years to get everything done.
You're also going to end up with what's known as an asset management program. And asset management is it's basically about taking good care of your assets. And in the past, and I've been doing this grant writing stuff for 42 years now, communities would intentionally allow their infrastructure to decline to a place where they were in an emergency situation or a very difficult situation where they couldn't afford to fix what they never put money into, and just allowed it to fall into a state of disrepair. The funding agencies finally woke up to this about 8 or 9 years ago and said, we'd like to throw our money at communities who actually take care of their assets. And so part of this engineering study is going to be an asset management program. And that's basically full life cycle management of your assets from the beginning to the end. And it allows you there are formulas in place, and it allows you to know when it's time to replace something, when it costs you too much money to fix it, and it's going to cost you less money to replace it. You're going to know that with an asset management program. And you're also sending a message to the funding agencies that you're a responsible local government. You're taking care of your assets. And when they invest money in you, their money isn't going to be wasted.
So what is the beginning and the end of what we're going to propose here? So,
Let me give you a time frame. I have to mark that here.
okay,
And the full grant application that's been written, it's on your website. I had to post it yesterday. And there's a hard copy over there. Here's a hard copy.
okay.
Let me just find the project schedule. So we're going to assume that the grants are going to be awarded in December. And that's a safe assumption because they have been for the last 10 years. Then you're going to have to procure a consultant according to their procurement requirements. And that'll take you 3 months. So the end of February, 2023. Then the engineering consultant will do what's known as an asset inventory of your water system. And do an existing condition assessment. So you'll know what's wrong with it and where what's wrong with it is located. And then they're obligated to do an alternative improvement analysis. So they'll make recommendations about improvements, but not just one recommendation. They've got to give you several. What works the best for the village? And so they have to analyze that, because the funding agency isn't going to let them just submit one idea for fixing something. They have to take a hard look at it. The preliminary engineering report should be done the end of July of 2023. And then the asset management program that goes hand in hand with it will be done the end of September of 2023. There's a required environmental review, but it's just a report. That's nothing. You'll be in and out of that in less than a month. So you'll have your report at the end of October. Not all of these programs that I was talking about go through the CFA. There are different times that they become available. The CDBG one is always May to July, but USDA rural development funding comes up at a different time of year. I can't tell you right now exactly when it is. The New York State WIA program, which is a water infrastructure program, that just passed about 30, 40 days ago. The New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, I think that's revolving, or not revolving, it's an open application. So once you have this in your hands, then you start going after, I mean, your priorities will be set, you decide what you want to go after.
So if I'm hearing this right, we're going to investigate every water pipe in the village of Sodas Point, the infrastructure that supplies, not what goes to the house or anything. It's going to be just
What's owned by the village.
what's owned by the village.
Mhm.
And it'll be from where it starts to where it finishes, or the
Yeah,
entire
that's-
circle.
An existing
Okay.
asset inventory.
Okay.
You don't have one of those. You have a pretty good idea where your assets are, but there's a lot of holes in that information.
Right.
You can plug them up, no pun intended.
And we know we have some leaky pipes in
Yes.
various areas of the village. When the water project was done in 2009 or 2010, Mark always told me there was $1 million worth of mains that still had to be replaced. Whether that's true or not, we'll find out with this report.
Now with the interest, would this disturb any of our infrastructure that we have now? Because it seems to me like we just put the cart before the
Yeah.
horse. This should have been done before all our sidewalks and all our roads. And is this something that they will have to dig any land up, any dirt?
I don't know that because the report isn't done yet.
Right, that, I expected you to say that. So that's kind of why I asked the question.
I don't know.
Because it will disturb what we already.
Well, it depending on the project.
Right, yeah, so there is a possibility that this can happen.
It'll probably happen on Maiden Lane, because that main was not replaced.
Okay,
We didn't have money. The rest of the area of the Ready project has new mains, so they should be okay,
okay,
but
that's
we'll
what
learn
I'm
that.
thinking, yes,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
But you-
That's where my thought process.
New
but you
mains
have that
meaning a
information.
decade,
Pardon?
new mains meaning like a decade, 10 or 12 years old.
Yeah, when the water project was done.
So is there a cost per service or a cost per foot? I mean, is 50,000 gonna be enough for the engineering report? Is there any
Absolutely.
benchmark?
That's the benchmark. Yeah, this is a standard cost that's pretty much been set by the granting agencies throughout New York State. And the engineering firms know that, and they're doing these reports for $52,000.
So it's good.
So it doesn't matter how big a village or how many services or how many.
Pretty
miles.
much they're doing.
Just like a break wall.
Yeah,
He's in your house.
Well, it's not so much. in these-
No, it's so the content of the plan is dictated by the state. So you can go to a larger community, but the headings are still the same, and the information is still the same.
So they'll still get 50 grand.
Yeah, it's all, the content is dictated by that.
Sounds like a wild card for the engineering firms, they probably go after the smaller ones, not the bigger ones.
Well, engineering, this is a good deal for engineering firms, because even though maybe they'll lose some money on it, but it's a lost leader. Because there's a lot of improvements that are necessary in the community, and they have a decent grant writing staff. They can come in and give you full service, right from the study to finding the money, applying for the money, and getting it,
So it puts them ahead.
and
of the curve,
designing
they know it's
the
there.
project, sure.
Yeah.
So it's
They can
it's
make
not
that
a bad deal for them.
Yeah, Maxine has her hand up. Go ahead, Maxine, unmute yourself.
Great. First of all, Sharon, thank you for posting this to the website. I did not see it until a few minutes ago, so had a chance to read it. I also didn't realize that we had applied for this last year and didn't receive the funding, so I came prepared with some other comments, but this seems like a worthwhile grant to apply for. But I do want to make a comment for next year, if we still qualify. I would like to see a grant for a feasibility study for a new community center. I really feel like the one that we have now should be, I don't want to say the word torn down because it is historic, but I think the community would definitely support some sort of community center that had activities again. And so I just want to give a plug for next year. So thanks for all your hard work on this. That's it.
Okay, any other comments on this application? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Sharon, what's not on our agenda is approving this. So
Yeah,
at the right time, can you help us?
you need authorizing the application?
Yes.
Oh, sure, I think we can.
Can you do that right after the resolution or after the?
Yeah, I mean, you can just, somebody can just make a motion in a second to authorize.
I think we can do that right now, can't we?
We haven't opened the next meeting.
Oh, okay,
We'll do it as the first item of business.
okay.
All right, so we'll call the village board meeting to order. And our first order of business is approval of the June 16th regular meeting minutes.
Are we not doing the pledge of allegiance?
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Sorry. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for the reminder.
No problem.
All right, approval of the June 16th regular meeting minutes. Any comments?
I had asked for something to be changed on those. Do you know, Melanie, if it was changed?
Did you?
I never saw a copy of the minutes after.
No.
No.
I don't know. I remember the conversation, but I have to find out. So
Thanks. We can make sure it gets changed.
Yep.
Okay, and what I had asked to be changed was that I abstained. It wasn't that I didn't vote. I was never asked, and rather than go through all of it, I just abstained.
I'm talking about the May minutes or the June minutes?
They were the June minutes, I believe,
yeah, it was just last month.
last month. No, that was another one.
So we're not gonna-
Oh,
that was weird.
the 31st was May 31st minutes.
Right.
You're right.
Which we've already taken care of.
Yeah, those ones are
Done.
done. Do you want to wait until it's changed to vote on it? Do you want to just? I can-
Just like nobody has a copy in front of them. so
Yeah,
I
it's
guess-
Yeah.
I wonder if she's got some. One. So right here, trustee Burbidge did not vote on resolution 20.
Right.
I want to just say.
Just say abstained.
All right, that's easy enough.
Yeah, she said the same thing.
Okay.
So can we make the motion to approve the minutes?
Subject to that change.
Subject to that change. So moved.
So seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Terms of reports, on the stormwater ready project, some of the pavement issues have been addressed, many more need to be addressed. Pumps have all been serviced that are functioning as they should be. and they're all now working on the gravity system, not pumping. The engineer is working with the contractor on a schedule for the remaining punch list items. The two big things that we're trying to get scheduled sooner rather than later is fixing the gate structure down on the end of the loop and fixing the drain on Gardner Lane. Both of those need concrete, so there's no concrete this week or next, but we can order for the following week on Monday, so that will take place then. On lake stones, the only closeout item that's really left is the as-built survey. We have a draft, but it's not certified. And the engineers requested a couple more measurements be added to it. So he's working with the contractor on that. Whitebird should go out to bid sometime next month, and we hope to construct in November. On water levels, we did get as low as 245.77, which is about 10 inches less than last meeting. We actually went up to 8.7 after the rain, and today we're down to 8.3. Our levels are below what was forecast by the Corps a month ago, so that kind of a look into the future maybe. Right now, we're about 4 inches below long-term average for July. And based on July's forecast for the next 6 months, we should expect to be 4 inches below the long-term average for each month. So we should still be able to use boats, but people will start to scream. Streetlight project has all been signed off. Final paperwork and all that needs to be prepared and presented to us. The maintenance of the lights should begin next week, with the tops being resecured for those that blew off. There's 8 or 9 of them that are not communicating with software that need to be remedied, and there's some other issues. The 4 new ones still are waiting for RTE to hook up power to them. So we continue to beat on that. Not that it's doing much good. New York Main Street project, we did get only 1 bid for the outdoor dining structures, and we will act on that later in this meeting. We did get state approval based on all the contractors we contacted to move forward with only 1 bid, which frankly I was surprised about. New York Forward is a new state program that was announced last week. This is a program that when Sharon and I were at a meeting probably almost a year ago with Vinny Esposito as a speaker, we talked to him about a scaled down version of downtown revitalization initiative. And that's what New York Forward is. He told us at the time that was in discussion. I was kind of disappointed this spring when it wasn't there, but it just came out later. The details on this project we're told to come out next week. So once we know more about it, we'll talk more about it. We did have a couple key visitors. Senator Schumer was here July 5th to announce the STORM Act, which was actually passed by the federal government in the fall. We won't be able to use this program in New York State till probably April or May of next year. This is a federal program that makes $500 million available across the country for hazard mitigation for earthquakes, forest fires, floods, windstorms, all that kind of stuff. So 500 million is not going to go far. Each state has to set up their own process to administer the money. It's FEMA money that goes to the state and then to people that need the money. It's open to all property owners, unlike some of the programs. New York State thinks they have a program in the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management to administer this. Because we had, working through SOS and Save the Shores, we had been beating on both Pam and Brian to get bills passed in their houses to support this program. We did get bills introduced in both houses, and they went to committee. The committee was told by the Dish's attorney that to wait until they found out what it was they needed to do. FEMA has not yet promulgated the regulations. So what Pam told me last week was she expects this will be part of the budget process for next year. So it'll become effective maybe April 1st. Our other visitor was Robert Rodriguez, who's the State Secretary of State. He wanted to see how we had used some of the money that his agency had made available. Interestingly, he thought the playground was fantastic. He was very pleased with all the ready work and some of the CDBG work that we had done prior. One of the things that was really troublesome to me was two of his entourage had never seen Lake Ontario, didn't really know what it was, and thought it was the Atlantic Ocean. That's pretty scary for a state employee, as far as I'm concerned. In terms of wastewater, they took 43 inches of supernatant off the digester. Josh Gregg has started shadowing the wastewater department, and he has agreed to stay there. They help the water department read the meters. They help Brandon with his manhole raising on Route 14. Connors and Haas raised the control panel on South Shore 2, which is over on South Shore Road. It's the one that was wet. Help the water department change the yard hydrant at Willow Park and change the gate valve at Central Ave Pump Station. This is another one of those maintenance things. There's two valves there. That's the pump house that fills the water tank on top of the heights. One valve was replaced. The next valve got here today and will be replaced as soon as they can get to it. He did get quotes on Margaret Road to get that pump station, lift station completed with a complete pipe gallery replacement, and we will act on that later today. No wipes down the pipes. This is quote for this month. Water, repaired a water main leak on Lake Road, replaced the valve in the lift station, which I just talked about. Yard hydrant, which I just talked about. Monthly samples, cleaned around the office and the shop, new mulch around the building. Worked with the sewer department to camera a main, teaching Josh how to do daily samples in the water department. Spec'd out a trailer with Brad that will act on next month. Inventory in the shop, answered lots of calls from residents and did lots of stakeouts. All these telephone calls lead to stakeouts, which we seem to have to do more than once, much like last summer with the project. Bill?
Really not an awful lot going on my end of it other than parking enforcement. I just wondered, we talked about this a couple of times. Will the sheriff enforce the parking on the sidewalks and that
Yes.
stuff? Or
Yes.
They will. What did Mayor, what did nobody indicate that they would do that?
When we met before the 4th of July.
okay,
That and fire hydrants, nothing else.
okay, that's was my concern. Thank you. Until we get our own person here.
All right, Jennifer?
I'm going to defer my time to Dresden, who is on, she's reconnecting. There she is. Hey, Dresden.
Hello, hello.
Provide us with an update on the splash event. She has a PowerPoint she's going to share and walk you through.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you to you and the mayor and Lori and many others who have been so helpful in making this inaugural event happen. Do I have access to share?
That's what I'm trying to give you right now.
Thank you.
All right, you should be able to do it.
Fantastic. So I'll just start out while my face is still on the screen to give you some idea of how this all came about. Jennifer had reached out to me wearing her tourism hat as a trustee for the 150th anniversary of the lighthouse. Now we know it's the 151st, but we ignore all those things we missed during COVID and we still celebrate them in full force. And so we have had some meetings with the community in April and May, as well as a couple of meetings in February and March with the lighthouse, February, March, and April with the lighthouse. So I'm now going to share because it'll be easier to see some visuals than to just hear me talk. Okay. All right. Does everybody see that on the screen?
Yes, go
All
ahead.
right, fantastic. So because of the lighthouse We have called it the Sodas Point and Lighthouse Splash. We know it's the Sodas Bay Lighthouse, but of course we want Sodas Point to be celebrated here. So the reason why it expanded beyond something than just for the lighthouse is what I'm going to tell you next. And you, being the trustees, know this better than anybody. So at the time that Jennifer reached out to me in the fall and we started talking to the folks at the lighthouse, the study came in, the market analysis study in December 2021. And I'm just going to go through quickly here some bullets that relate to why this was expanded. Here are some quotes at the recommendations from the study. Events can increase the exposure of Sodas Point and its businesses to families and younger customers, an important step towards sustaining and growing the local customer base. Targeted seasonal events can bring more visitors to downtown Sodas Point through a targeted visitor attraction strategy that introduces new customers, especially families. Prioritize clear and consistent communication with Sodas Point residents, business owners, and other stakeholders. That'll be relevant as a little bit later. And this presentation is less than 5 minutes, so don't worry, I'm not going to kill you with a PowerPoint. Marketing more directly to tourists and visitors can encourage more customers to visit local businesses throughout all times of the year. So this event thus far is serving a few things. One, it's going to be a template for being able to do things during the shoulder season and off season. If events haven't happened of this size before, or with this much variety that I'm going to share with you, then how can we do it in an off season? So we're trying it out in the height of summer. And then also the third bullet, the clear, consistent communication. Since no one entity owns this event, it really has been an excellent internal communication opportunity. And yes, I've had to lean on the village and ask Jennifer and the mayor and Lori for favors along the way to connect me with folks. And I think Phil might be in the meeting. Phil has also connected me with folks. But it's been what we set out to do. So this is a slide from what we shared that we wanted to do. We wanted it to be, this is the exact slide I shared with the community back in April. Who will organize the event? It's a community approach. Village, businesses, residents, organizations, and the county. Sponsored dollars will make it possible. And no one entity is expected to carry the weight, and a community-wide team of volunteers will be organized. That's been a little slow in starting as any inaugural event, but there have been plenty of people helping and pitching in and attending committee meeting, if you will, when needed. So let's see what sponsors have done. We have this many sponsors, and I just texted Jennifer because 650 just came in as a sponsor. So that makes us very happy. So tomorrow's the day the banners orders, we have one banner up, but the banner orders and the t-shirt orders go in. So the deadline for sponsors is tomorrow. Our lead sponsor is Lions National Bank. Kay Gans being on the board, and also because your accounts are with Lions, Kay Gans being a local business owner and being on the Lions board, but also because that's where you have your assets as a village, definitely helped that make that possible. You can see the other logos there. We had the town supervisor come in and support from his own businesses. Tidesides is also our second largest sponsor monetarily. And we have a couple of media sponsors as well. We have Yelp and kidsoutandabout.com. So in these next 2 weeks, we are going to be getting a lot of information out to the Rochester and Syracuse markets, as well as Wayne County, of course. And kidsoutandabout.com is the tool for all the families in Rochester to see what's going on. So those are free sponsorships coming aboard. Any questions thus far? All right, so this isn't my prettiest graphic, but this gives you an idea. These are the three main areas where we're going to have events. It doesn't mean other areas aren't going to be exposed through encouraging folks, but the lighthouse, the beach, and the ball field gazebo area. This is what's happening at the lighthouse. It's the 200th anniversary of Harriet Tubman and the 150th anniversary of the lighthouse. So we're going to just talk about Sodas Point history in general. And so we have different historical reenactors happening throughout the day. We have Harriet Tubman actress coming in from Rochester, an Austin Stewart actress coming in from Rochester, and a local gentleman who has been living in Sodas Point pretty steadily since COVID, His name is Alan Frost, and he is going to be our Captain Garlock, who drove the schooner across the lake. So they have scripts. We're going to stand alongside the water. The lighthouse is excited about this, and it really is going to put a huge exclamation point on Sodas Point history. And from 12 to 12:30 and possibly longer, depending on what other wineries come on board, we're going to have wine tastings at the lighthouse as well. The lighthouse didn't want to host the big craft fair and so forth, and that's why it's at the ball field. But just wanted everybody on the board to know we've been extremely respectful of this being the lighthouse's anniversary, that we have only done what as much as they've wanted to do without imposing on them and their volunteers. At the beach, we're going to be very, very busy at the beach. There's going to be a sandcastle contest. We're going to have strolling costume characters, princesses, and Pokemon characters. The bands at the beach will serve as MCs and announce events happening on. We have 4 bands playing back to back at the beach. When they take a break, we have music at the gazebo, and the reenactors perform at the lighthouse because of sound bleed. So every time it's quiet at the beach, we have something going on elsewhere. And there's possibly some other things we may be adding. There'll be some yacht races you can see, but we might add something related to shipwreck. So we're still working on a couple of little details. Got ahead of myself. And then lastly, at the ball field and gazebo, we're going to have food trucks. We're going to have 2 20 by 40 tents to provide shade, tables and chairs for eating from the food trucks. And also strolling characters will visit. We'll keep children activities happening. Face painting and balloon animals will also be happening near the gazebo. Arts and craft fair. We have 20 artists and vendors already signed up. At the gazebo, NASP is going to do a dedication to the gazebo at 11 o'clock. And then we're going to have 2 Sinatra Rat Pack musical presentations. And then we're going to round out to the day with a rock duo. We already are getting some publicity. So these clips, not making the mayor or Jennifer look beautiful in these screenshots, but we had 6 interviews last week on Channel 13, ABC. And then when that swings over to Good Morning America at 7 o'clock, it swings over to Fox News. So we were on Fox Rochester as well as Channel 13 last week. And Jennifer has a link to those interviews if anybody would like her to send them to you. So you could see all 6 interviews. But we focused on, we put a spotlight on the lighthouse. We let Wayne County come out and talk about their Kickstart contest that Jennifer was the winner of last year. The mayor talked about your amazing honor of being in the top 4 most best preserved beaches for 2022. So we crammed a lot into those 6 interviews. And again, I thank the mayor and Jennifer for getting up early with us. Now, more businesses are going to be supported throughout this event. We are going to have shuttles through RTS, 2 28-seat shuttles, and they are going to move up 14 as well. So Martin Tidesides and Stone Goose and Marina Deli and Waterfront Wine and Spirits and Franklin House, who have all participated, are going to be on these shuttle stops. And it will also be doing the loop for the 3 locations. And along those shuttle stops is we're working out parking as we speak. So we are going to not only make it easy for folks with shuttles, we are also, I wanted to add one more thing about media. When you have an event, that gives you an opportunity to pitch media. So we have more media coming. And I want to have as many businesses that supported this event get some airtime and some ink. And so that's all of it. Just wanted to sum it up. It's pretty aggressive. When I spoke with Kevin Rooney at the county to check for the wattage at the pavilion at the beach, I said, well, what have you done in the past when you've had bands at the beach? And he said, we've never had bands at the beach. So maybe I'm a little overzealous, but everything is booked and everything is happening. And now all we have to do is pray for no rain and cross our fingers and smile. Any questions, please?
Anybody have any questions for President?
Can you say the date, please?
August 6th. Thank you very much, Dresden.
Thank you so much.
The only other thing I want to mention in addition to Dresden is we submitted our voting destination to the Great Lakes Scuttlebutt with images so that it was in the fall issue of that magazine.
Nice.
Awesome, but, all right, for the ambulance, 36 emergency responses for the month of June. This is by ALS as of 7/11. So far, 162 responses for the year. Ambulance had a sales rep come in yesterday, meet with them. I talked to Bill, apparently that went pretty good, some new things coming out of it, no more in the future. Blow off day, uneventful. No big things to report on that, which is positive. Summer picnics for the ambulance team at Bill and Sherry's house we talked about, and also the Vital Signs Education Conference and discuss what makes a member eligible later on. For the highway, focusing on the Mark Jones Senior Park. Talked with Mary, they've been cleaning out some of that, just making some preparation things, getting the hill and the brush and all the compost and whatnot settled in. We'll have a consultant coming in on that later on. The public brush dumping area is now to the north of Federally Drive, just before the old dump location. And they've also said that there's a lot of debris that's been being dumped there. They asked that only brush be dumped there, not rocks and pressure treated lumber and whatnot. For questions of what's acceptable, please review the brush collection rules found at the dumping area that's assigned there, or call the village hall. We'll let you know. That's all I got. Thank you. Lori?
I attended the CEC meeting with Sodas Village. The EV station grant information has been filed and looks favorable. We have been approved for 90% funding and are waiting for 10% funding from the DEC. The benchmarking information has all been submitted. Special thanks to Dave, Tracy, and Kevin for supplying information timely on all projects. Emily Royce is putting together the data, and we should be able to have an understanding of what we are saving by our clean energy initiatives. The LED and Cobra lights have been completed and information was submitted because that's worth quite a few points. So we should be in line for at least a $5,000 grant, if not more. Not a lot, but we'll take it. LWRP, we're still on track for the August meeting, which has been set now, I think, through August 31st. It's tentative, right? Or is that?
No, it looks like it's gonna be that's the date of the public meeting, August 31st.
And do you have a time for that?
5 o'clock to 6:30.
5 to 6:30.
Yep. Pretty
Okay,
much everyone
would make it.
is okay.
Yeah. I will not be there. I'm on grandma duty in Vermont for a week then. I do it annually, unfortunately, but I know it'll go just fine. And Sharon submitted the report on the LWRP status to date. The playground, our first playground meeting was fabulous with many great ideas. We had that a week ago, Monday. So I've attached the minutes and they're part of the public record if anybody wants to see it. All community members are invited. If anybody's interested in coming, we're going to have the next meeting at my home on July 26th. And we provide supper if anybody's interested. People are coming from work because it's a younger group than we're used to having. So 6 to 7:30. The official committee to date is Fred Whiteman Sr., Mary Lou, and Corky Shulman from NAS, Maura and Will Sederka, Tina Bartuka and Jared Van Kallenberg, Josh and Tierra Jerome, Greg Ornt, Patrick and Emily Burbridge, Phil Leone, Jennifer and Dwayne Evans, and Brad Geffert were both there, and Dresden Engelkane and Fred Whiteman Jr. from Playcore and Linda Colleton from Playcore both led us with some initiatives. So, and we had approximately 10 children. I'd like to recognize Brad Geffert from the Highway Department because he showed us, we now have a list of every item that's wrong with playground. It looks good, but there is definitely a lot of stuff that needs to happen. So everyone was excited about it. The State Route 14, we finally got something back from the State Department. We'll be going over that in a little while. And as just an aside, I checked with Alice, Bill, to see how the visitor center is going. And this year we have record numbers of new people coming to visit the community. So that's that for me.
Thank you. Kevin's on vacation, but his report should be in the packet. There were 11 permits issued and generated $915 in fees. Public comments. First from in the room. Anybody on Zoom want to make a public comment? Please unmute yourself and do so.
I have two comments. First of all, I just want to say I am so thrilled at seeing all the kayakers and what do you call those boats that you rent? Those SUVs or it's just. Yes, and the little paddle boats. And I mean, it's always, you guys know that my vision was always to have a public dock down there and to do exactly what Jennifer is doing. And people, they're coming from all over. There was a whole group from Chicago last week that I saw go out. And it's really exciting because they're going to go back where they live and they're going to come back again because they are going to know that Sodas Point is so much fun. So Jennifer, great job. Thank you for doing this. I know it's a lot of work. You're there at 7 o'clock in the morning, you leave at 10 at night. And I just want to say Dresden, phenomenal job. I mean, I think Sodas Point has tried to put things together before. They tried to work with the businesses and there was just a lot of noise in the room. It just never worked because everybody had ideas and everybody was talking over each other. So thank you. Great job.
Thank you for saying that. And I have found time and time again in my career, sometimes it just takes an outside person.
Yes.
And for not one entity to own it. And that was what everybody envisioned. And so far it's working. So I can't claim victory yet, but at least we're almost there. I appreciate those words very much. And again, everybody has been so helpful and wonderful. So it's been a true community effort.
Yeah, I think it was really smart to hire you and to use an outside firm. So I hope that your idea about a template for continuing have Winterfest and other events, autumn, whatever. I hope that the village can continue that. So
Just to be clear, we aren't paying her.
Yeah,
She's
sponsorships.
doing this all on volunteer, and hopefully there's a little money left over for her in the end.
well, great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments?
David,
Yes.
I just want to announce that there's going to be an antique power and sailboat show at the Yacht Club and Sailing Association complex on August 20th, beginning at 9 a.m. Anyone that has an antique boat, sail, or power, row, kayak, we will be hosting that as an event. There is no cost. It's public awareness. The plan is next year to include wheels and keels. We've attended some of those, bringing in historic automobiles. And this year we will be having, because of Lyra, we hopefully have 5 of the 8 meters on display that will be here, as well as a number of people in this community do have historic boats that are very interesting. So anyone that is interested in participating or knowing of someone that has a boat, and they are including vessels that are 30 years old and older. So if you have a fiberglass boat that is some collector type value, that means you could come, David. And the last thing I want to just mention, I know that after our last meeting, a number of people came and spoke personally to me, and others commented about our community and the quality of our employees. And having mentioned that, I want to just not really say this in a negative, but I was in a business recently where someone was making a comment to another community member stating that, well, this particular employee will not be here much longer. I found that very discouraging after the positive comments that was communicated to me about the prior event. So I just hope that it was not meant that the person might be leaving the employment of the village, but as I mentioned, it's very difficult to hire and retain good people. And that's something we still have to work on, is having, as I know David and his wife host gatherings at their cottage on the island. That's one of the best way we can build employee morale. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll close public comments and move on to old business. The first order is restoration of Larry Mannheim's lawn, and I know he wants to speak.
Thank you.
This is the $1,096 invoice.
Not the numbers you're talking about. But I do want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss my law problems. In September, I'll be 88. So 20 years ago, I would have made notes and commented on it. So now I tried to write down what I thought was the important things to talk about, which is a little different. And as a result, it's much shorter what I had to say because I think I'm keeping it down to the facts. I know the town has accomplished a lot in the past few years to improve our town. Well, I've also done the same thing with our home. After receiving a grant for our house, raising our house, I spent thousands of, the wife and I, just with her approval, I spent thousands of dollars to install a new driveway, walks, patio, steps, lawn, and flower beds. And I think if you've been down the street, I think it looks pretty good. Now for my problem. After researching the type of grass best for Sodas Point, it is determined that tall fescue sod would be the best. It's consistently in growth where it was seeded and what really is supposed to have been done, but it grows at a different rate. The blades of grass are different. You can tell the difference. It takes less watering and there's less weeds. If you have to pass my house today, or our house, you would see the difference between the sod and the seed areas. Also, the difference in the amount of weeds. My front yard sod, backyard, two sides sodded, has less weeds than just the front where they seeded. And where they've seeded there, I've gone and I've sprayed that as I spray the other with to try to kill all the weeds that would be in there. So if you like, I can go back a year or two to give you the trouble I've had through this whole period of time. But I don't think it's necessary. I think what I had to say about my last contacts with the subcontractor should be enough for you to realize to release the funds I've asked for. Last fall, I saw 3 people putting topsoil down in front of our house. I approached them and asked them, "Are you going to sod?" Immediately, one person said to me, "I'm the boss here. You talk to me." I apologized to him and said, "I need to have sod. Please do not seed." His response was to say, quote, "I will do what the effing I want to do." I did get upset and said, "Don't seed my lawn." Sure enough, when I wasn't looking, he seeded the yard. And seeding, taking that, sawed all up, that's cost more money than if he'd have let it alone and just had to be sawed. So that's my story. And I thank you for giving me the time, and I hope that you will approve my request. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Can I ask you
Good
something?
question. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I had a note here to say.
That's okay.
Please do.
Larry, or maybe I should be directing it to the mayor. Who were the people that were doing that work? Was that RG&E? Was it our people? Was it?
No, it was the subcontractor to Cerrone. RG&E originally dug up Larry's yard shortly after sod was put down, maybe 6 months later, to work on the gas main for the project. They never repaired the lawn. Cerrone came through and did the roadway, and when their crew came through to repair lawns, they repaired Larry's too. When Larry complained, we contacted RG&E because it was really their responsibility, not Cerrone's. Because Cerrone had touched it, they refused to do anything with it. So we just ended up in this circle. So I told Larry, if it looks different in the spring, we'll take care of it. So to him, it looks different. And that's why we have this quote.
Well, I went out to your house.
Good, I wish you'd have knocked on the door.
I should have, because from the road, it looked like it needed a drink, but like the rest of our lawns around the mailbox, it definitely looked a little different. It was.
Well,
it
and
was-
I watered the lawn, and I've watered that front for 2 hours at a time. I watered
I believe you.
the wall, including the wall, all the way back. So that seeded part got just as much water as the sod part.
So it's the
But you
difference.
can see the difference.
Yeah, he's right. You could see it because it was dry.
Mhm.
And if that's really true, and I know from, I don't know much about grass here, but I know a lot about it in Florida. And there were certain types of grass that you could do.
So is there money in the contingency that covers this at all on the project, or
Yeah, the project should cover this.
is there money?
Well, for the project, we're retaining about $350,000. So technically, there's money. But if Cerrone doesn't agree to pay for it, then it's gonna come out of our money, assuming they get all the retainage back, which right now I would say they wouldn't, but we don't know that
No, we
until
shouldn't get this,
December.
we shouldn't get this portion back, I mean, if you think about it.
Right.
It should be taken from there.
I don't disagree, but I'm not sure that's really possible and legal for us to do.
What's
I
to,
think if you're going to pay it, it's gonna have to come out of your contingency, not out of the subcontractors.
then, can you write a letter and tell him that he needs to fix this the way it is?
I can do that if you would like, and I understand.
We're
there is
on for a year and
concern,
a half now.
But the fact that the
I'm sorry, I
fact that
didn't
it
mean
might
to-
have been sod and it's a different type of grass, I don't think that is anything the contractor's got an obligation to do, replace the lawn. So if you want to do it because it is different, if that's what you believe, for that amount of money, I would just, you're gonna take it out of your general
Your house
contingency.
did look beautiful and it did look nice. It's not what you have.
So is this on our list, or is this, because I thought we talked about this last month.
We did. It was tabled last month, so everybody could go look.
I didn't go, just so.
My concern is that we open up a can of worms.
Yeah, because
I don't, and I agree.
Pardon, I didn't-
I said, my concern is we open up a can of worms for everybody else that wants to have something done with their yard, and I'm not against it. Because I understand, it's nice to have a gorgeous house and yard and all that, and it's not being taken care of or wasn't taken care of the way it was. But we also have to tread lightly because there's a lot of other people in the village that probably went through a similar item.
absolutely.
And we just gotta be real careful, that's all, because it could turn into a,
There are several others on projects for individual homes with not this issue, but with similar type issues.
But they're on an active punch list, which means they're not done. Whereas his is done, right?
Well, we continue to bring it up, but they don't even talk to us about it anymore. So yeah, we could say his is done.
I think it's only right that when this is all done, that our property should look like it did when we finished spending our money on it. I don't think that's asking for too much. And I know nothing about the legal part of it, but I can't believe how you cannot hold subcontractors who have gone a year and a half. And I had to put up with what I put up when the guy stands there and starts cussing at me.
Yeah.
That's just,
Well, the problem sounds like it was RG&E and it's Cerrone's problem because Cerrone went in there and did what he absolutely told them not to do. Because he was the boss.
and RG&E when they come out, they
RG would have
said
fixed
that
it.
Sherrill, whatever that subcontractor was, well, once he touches it, we do nothing.
Yeah, because Larry was there when RTE was out there.
Yeah,
So we can go around and around and around.
We can either pay for it or not pay for it out of our
I
money.
mean, based on what Art said, it's gonna have to come out of Art.
So this contractor who does this just walks.
Pretty much.
that's not right.
That isn't right. He's right.
But the other side of that is, do we spend $10,000 to go after him with an attorney
$1,000 grass.
on $1,000?
He's on stipend.
I understand
So
that.
taxpayer
Whatever you
payments.
want me to do, but I'm telling you, after 41 years of doing this, you're wasting your time.
Right.
You're gonna have one contractor, you're gonna have RG&E, and then the sub of the general. You're, for $1,000, either pay it or don't, but to go chasing these people, you're gonna spend an
Right.
awful lot more on litigation costs than.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this day and age.
I guess it comes on the specifications. If it wasn't specified to replace as existing on the restoration.
Phil's right, I guarantee that contract says nothing about replacing.
You just have to see the
You know,
law.
So I mean, that's the problem.
And
They weren't required, right?
But I was under the impression, even talking with the general contractor, we're going back a year and a half, whatever ago, that it would be replaced the way it is. Now, not in the contract, I mean, I can go buy some other parts, other things, but I don't want to mix it up with this, but, you know, when.
There was another home in which this happened. And that homeowner went out and just resetted themselves.
RG&E wouldn't touch it because it had already been touched.
It had already been remediated by Sherrill.
Okay.
Well, I know each place should be done on an individual basis if you're gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? If you get somebody else that comes up, it's not like it's a bulk situation. Each one will be an individual situation, but,
How many do we know about? Like, how many people, I mean,
Yeah.
if we do this for Larry, how many other people are gonna come out of it?
There are no other law.
I think the fact that we know it was classified versus other people coming saying, I want my lawn fixed too, but.
Yeah.
But though, I'm not aware of any other law issues.
Yeah.
And the other two things that are resident reported are really issues and they belong to Surround. Surround knows.
This is a one-off.
I will say Wickham, the small strip along Wickham is settled and the base of the curve towards the houses is showing, so. Surround's definitely, that's not on the punch list, they gotta re-soil a lot, they reseed it.
Okay.
Because they didn't compare it.
I think,
I make a motion that we accept this as is and we pay it to bring the property back to what it is.
in good faith,
In good faith.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
The others, I think we look at the others as an individual if they come up.
Well, they shouldn't come up.
Right, I understand.
Other than identify
Thank
the
you.
date. I said aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I heard everybody, I heard everybody.
Okay. I know last time we were making.
I
sure
thank you very
everybody
much. This is the matter of principle with me. If you want me to contact any of those subs,
got-
I'll do it.
Don't stress about it anymore. Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Enjoy.
Go help Dee celebrate.
Drink down, Larry.
I just about that one.
No, I've got help. Get rid of your financial trouble.
All right, next under old business is the DOT letter that Lori got.
Basically, it's from the New York State Department of Transportation, basically thanking us for our correspondence. We had a resolution with SOTUS and SOTUS Point to do some traffic calming on Route 14 because the cars just fly through there. And basically they have outlined that they are going to do a study. Hopefully the study will be during high peak. And Sharon, I did use that information. I think I wrote you, Sharon provided me information from one of the downtown grid. Yeah. Anyways, so we can go ahead and do some work on that at our expense.
With their approval.
With their approval. So I would really like to see us, and do we have any parking restrictions laws because there definitely should be have something in Harriman Park. Last week, there were trucks on both sides of the road with,
We have parking restrictions, they're in the code book. We can,
put up signs.
first we have to amend the code book in these meetings and then signs can be. We did that in front of New Horizons 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes, well, we need
We
to,
need to follow that same process.
okay,
What we had with the pro-am in town. last
Right.
week. And part of the problem with that is we invite these events into town,
oh, yeah.
but we have no parking. We've taken that away. We've taken all these little niche places away. I think we need to come up with a solution before we go right more
Well,
about
that's-
it.
Most events reach out for parking help. The pro-am did not. And I had to pull teeth to get information to put in the shoreline. So that's on my list to talk to Tim about.
Yeah, like I said, let's
Because
find the
I was
solution.
completely unaware of it until there was a request to put it on the sign.
Well, you watch people try to walk, like they walk from tide sites and down in that area. If you watch them try to walk, or people crossing with young children and stuff, to get from the parking lot to the boat launch, they can hardly see, and it's on a bit of a hill, so that doesn't help anything.
If I'm not mistaken, when Sean got set up to do down by the old not lighthouse, down by the old coal trestle area, in that area, he was told by the state, I think his nickname is Tooth, but I'm not sure, and that parking from Margaretta Road towards the south, towards Arnie's on the west side of the road is a no parking area, but there's no signs or anything there. And they said without the signs, they can't enforce the no parking.
Right.
So that's
So it is a no parking.
on that side, yes. And then,
So I would go back to Bud's comment and me that, I mean, and to your state, that if there was a better awareness of the event, we could have come up with, like we're doing with the splash, some sort of parking map or a parking.
We're doing it with the splash, we're
given
doing it
to
with the
the-
antique boat
Right, but the
show.
captains of the boats and all of the
Yeah.
people that come to town, that we want to come to town,
That's a
we
good
don't want
idea.
to put up signs and say, don't come here.
No, we want to,
So
yeah.
we have to come up with a strategy to better manage our relationship
Create a
with the
solution and an
program.
action plan so that when the event does come to town, we say, hey, this is our policy, this is
Right.
what we do.
It's not
Here
chasing
you go,
tourists.
and then they
Yeah.
can put that out.
And I don't want to discourage people from fishing either, and people park there, people fishing, and
But I think we need to do more research.
Yes.
Somebody told him it was no parking. I don't know if it's in our book or not, since it's a state road.
Right, I agree.
I don't know whether it needs to be in their book, in our book, so we gotta find all those things.
Okay, so we'll do that.
But absolutely, we should continue and bring proposals forward.
Okay, and so now we know we have permission to do this. And I think we always had it, but it was like a big dark secret.
it's just a process, you're gonna get better at saying.
This might be something that we talk to the guy at the Tennessee Transportation Council about before he finalizes the parking study for the village of Sutter Point.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we didn't-
Well, it's a water access issue also.
Yeah.
And there are people who can afford.
Yeah.
Other places to get to the water, to put strings in with hooks on the end.
I love the park, and I love the boat launch. I don't have any issues with any of that. I have
Me too, it's
concern for the
entertainment.
pedestrians that are walking through there, because we don't have sidewalks either. Yeah,
Mayor, I do have a little bit of insight on the property that, the New Horizon Marine. Unfortunately, the owner of the property that owns the structures that have been left forever is separate from the marina owner. And they own nothing until they go back beyond the building that they do the repair work in. So there's this verbal agreement between the owner where everybody does park for mowing the grass. They're allowing people to park there. So it is a huge problem that needs to be resolved in longer term. If there are many of these large marinas that are being sold, and it needs to be a letter to the owners of New Horizon informing them that they have to have, before any sale could be made, that there has to be a formal agreement between the other owner. Otherwise, you're going to have a continuation of that problem.
yeah, that's absolutely true. But up by Harriman Park, you've got a little different scenario because they don't park the way they should. I mean, they hog it. Plus, we've got some overnight campers that come there on the weekends. I was notified on. That doesn't bother me either, as long as they don't bother anybody else. But it's probably not right. But the parking lot where they drive around and that sort of thing, they've got to have so much room to be able to load their boats and unload the boats. But these were, and it's not just the Pro-Am weekend, it's a busy, if it's a hot weekend, you're gonna have it on both sides of the road. And I believe it's a bit of a hazard, the way they fly through.
We can address it by updating the code book and
Yeah.
then we'll get signs.
Okay.
I had a question, so where we go from 55 to 30 miles an hour on 14, it's been said that we should have that step down to 45 for a bit,
And-
35, could we do that?
Yeah,
We have to make a proposal to the state and then they'll hopefully give us permission.
I think it was a-
They'll probably do their study first, but
right.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
55 to 45 to 30.
Or you the one that brought that up in the past? or-
Yeah.
I brought it up.
It was
100,000 times,
Yeah,
that
so this is
there
a
are
chance.
communities all over the place, just think about it. Going into Newark, 45 miles an hour, going into Lyons, 45 miles an hour, going into Cato, 45 miles an hour. There are all these deceleration speed zones. And what happens when we come into Sodas Point? People are going 60 miles an hour. 65 miles an hour. I'm up at the golf course all the time and it scares the hell out of me to cross on those crosswalks because people don't just come along there at 65 miles an hour, but they pass each other
I'll give
on
you,
that stretch.
The interesting part is on my GPS in my truck, it says it's 45.
and it was at one time.
So
It's not.
So that's interesting.
But one of
I know
the
you- I
judges,
remember you said that a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we need to work with DOT.
right.
It's gonna get me late to work every day.
One of the things I asked,
Start swimming.
one of the things I asked for up at the golf cart course was the caution lights that you could press to stop traffic or warn traffic before you cross, because I've seen people trying to get across there. And it is tough.
All right, we're gonna move on, please. Next is just a comparison, it's just a spreadsheet of our fire hall flood repairs versus the insurance. And I did put the 2020 repairs in here, although I didn't put the 2020 insurance, but I should have.
What are we looking at for this?
This is a spreadsheet.
Yeah, what are we trying to discern from this?
We were asked to provide this information, so it's provided.
Well, the drywall and ceiling says nothing because it was donated,
Yes,
but that still should be a cost that you put in for
A value.
the value of what it was.
on the bottom it says the value was $15,000.
Then if the value is $15,000, we need to put that into the insurance claim.
We did.
Okay,
We did. The insurance, we did more drywall work than the insurance company thought we needed to do. In part, we have asked, Tracy's reached back out to the adjuster and asked for an adjustment on all of this.
Good.
Because we've spent more. HVAC is completely out. That was 100% on us. But she's reached back out and hopefully we'll get some more money. But basically, they gave us $12,000 less our $5,000 check.
don't accept that.
We're gonna stick Gloria.
Sick me out. I'm good at that.
Okay,
It was because they wanted us to fix that pump that they had a problem, or the unit. They didn't want to pay for the unit last year. So that's my thought on it.
all right, on to new business. This is another resident complaint about the stormwater project. This gentleman down on Greg Street, when the project was designed and when the project was built, he did not have a sidewalk in front of his house. And that's where his car was parked. So that's where the driveway was put.
Did we ever go to him and talk with him?
We talked to him several times.
Because when we were walking around the day that, I think it was the day we were doing the inspections, or maybe it was even prior to that, I spoke with him. His concern was, nobody ever asked me where my driveway was gonna go. I went out there, took a look when I was looking at the other one, and both of those don't look like they're real, the curbs are right. That's, I know nothing about curbs, so I can't say a whole lot. But his concern was that nobody had actually talked to him. They just made the decision where that was gonna go without his input.
Which is why we had a public hearing on the plans for people to come and look and make adjustments. We did not go door to door with anybody. We did it based on what was evidenced by taking pictures of properties. So he's asked that we change the curb, which would also mean changing the sidewalk. The curb that he does have is a, what's called a mountable curb. So it's made to be driven over.
Is that as high as a cinder block on that side? It looks like he has a cinder block going over.
He dug down,
Oh, he dug that out?
yeah, he dug that all out. That used to be grass, now it's gravel. He dug that all out. I
That's
think
pretty
he was
big
gonna,
bump if it's a cinder block high.
I think he was gonna make it cement, but that hasn't happened.
So the only part he's contesting then is where this gravel is.
I'm not sure what is he asking?
Well, but the curb is made to drive over there, correct? Yes. Isn't that what you said? So,
He would like the curb in front of his house to be entirely flat, which is what is in place at both his neighbor's houses. Because they already had driveways that were the full width of their property. Yes.
He used his grass.
And now he wants us to put one.
Right, but he used his grass in the driveway and now he can't.
Well, he can. He apparently, and I didn't see this, so I don't know, but I was told he drove a very old beat up car. And when he drove up the mountable curb, it took off the muffler.
The only thing I could see is, and this is common sense, they didn't give him one curb cut. I mean, you have a mountable,
He does have a curb cut.
He does have a curb cut? Yeah, I looked at it today. and
He
I
has a
didn't
curb
see it.
cut right where his driveway is, because that's where his car was parked previously. Before he put the drive,
I mean,
before he
they
put
do
the
allow for a
sidewalk.
driveway for him where he didn't have one.
So the question is, do we want to do anything or not? And that could be paid for it, that could be allow him to do it at his expense, which may or may not happen, or we could just say, it is what it is. Those are kind of the choices.
it's an individual thing. It's like I said, and you know what? Let them, if everybody had a chance to voice their opinion or their, at the beginning of this thing with the drawings and that stuff, it's one thing when you got somebody that drives on the grass or RG&E or whatever, it's another thing when it's a standard situation. I say either let him handle it himself and do it the right way, or don't let it cost us anything.
I'm worried about him ripping it up and it not being.
Well, and I agree,
Yeah.
but
We can just say no.
But if we say no, and he goes out and he rips it up,
It's in the right of way.
Yeah.
It's not his.
so he
property.
can't do anything.
you should.
Wait,
Not
wait.
legal, not legal.
Shouldn't.
You'd have to give him permission to go into our right of way to make those.
Did he buy this during the project? Or was he the owner prior to? I mean, just
I
wondering,
would
did he have an
buy
opportunity?
Right, I was just
Oh,
saying.
so he-
That's my old house.
So he bought it way before, plenty of time
The
to
engineering for
comment.
this project was done years ago.
Okay.
When I owned it, it was just driving on the grass anywhere you wanted. There was no elevations anywhere.
Okay.
So that all came to be after he bought the house. Apparently. Never used to be anything, it was just one big lawn.
It was regret.
It is the driveway. Yeah. But
Well,
now we have a higher curb, he
there
can't.
was no incline to get in, because his house is low on the road side. So, and I just remember vocalizing this through the whole project.
Yeah, he
The general
started
contractor
early.
was moving along pretty quickly. He probably experienced the same
He
thing.
made all sorts of threats during the project. and the sheriff visited him a number of times over comments to our faces, comments on Facebook, and things like that. So
So do you need a motion or something to do this, or just say, have a nice day?
I need some, if everybody's on board with say, have a nice day, then that's all I need.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with have a nice day.
I'll second that. So that's a motion. I'll make the motion. I motion that we take no action on this and that we don't give him access to the right of way to make any of his own improvements.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna sit this one out.
All right. All right, I said the first thing we would do in new business is the CDBG approval, and I failed yet again. So can we get a motion to approve the submission of the CDBG grant for the water system review?
Where,
Is that in the bottom?
There's nothing in here for it. I completely forgot to put that part of it on the.
That's my fault.
Yeah, I'm for it. I'm just asking, where are we going to pull this $2,500 from?
It won't be in this year's budget.
So flip flop action.
Well, the next year's, if we
You don't
can
need it till
approve,
next year.
in next year's budget, we'll put it in there.
Okay.
I move that we approve the block grant.
Yeah, the submission of a community development block grant planning grant.
Got that, Melanie?
I have community development block grant planning grant.
Just write CDBG up there. It means a lot.
Yeah. Requesting $50,000
And matching with 2,500.
for a water system study. All right, done then. Thanks.
I'll second it.
All right,
And make sure the match is in there too.
they did.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Margaretta Road lift station, there's two things here. This is a little confusing. There's a there's labor and there's parts, and we're gonna talk about labor first. So there's a Mark Peretta quote and a Northrop Enterprises quote. Northrop Enterprises is $4,000. Mark Peretta is $7,100. So for the same work, taking the parts that we buy, which is the next thing we'll address, and replacing the entire pipe gallery in the Margaretta Road lift station.
Where is that located?
Toward the, it's in the swamp, basically. Down by the gun club.
Okay.
Down by Specky's.
And this is apples to apples, basically, we're talking
Yes.
about, and there's,
Yeah, and interestingly, these two guys work together a lot, so they'll probably do it together.
yeah, I make a motion, we go with Northrop Enterprises.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the Margaretta Road parts. There's an FW Web quote and a Blair Supply quote. FW Web is $5,125.70. Blair is $5,299.46.
One is non-domestic flanges,
Yes,
and what is it? Or just doesn't,
it just doesn't say so. It's wastewater. That's why it says non-domestic.
Have we had any to do with buying parts from either one of these people before?
We love FW Web.
Yeah, we just, if you notice when we signed the bills, we just bought a couple of calls from
Yeah.
a couple of clients.
I know that we go with FW Web because theirs is low bid.
I'm with you. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes,
Yeah.
she's-
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
That's an eye.
And you're fine.
That's
I-
Arr.
You're so.
Oh,
All right, this thing from Fleet. All of our pumps are made over in Seneca Falls. And they used to do all of the maintenance for us. They've now, I'll say, sold the maintenance out, teamed up with this Fleet Pump and Service Group to provide that maintenance, which is why we only have one quote. Basically what they do, we have a broken pump over there. So they take the pump back to the shop and they rehab it. And then they come and reinstall it. A new pump runs somewhere between $18,000 and $30,000, depending on how big it is.
well, we have one bid.
We have one bid. Because there's only one company locally that does this work on flight pumps, and that's what we have.
And they've done these for us before,
Yes. Yeah.
lots of times.
Tons of times. This is a very common occurrence. Most of the time, they're not more than $3,000, so you don't see them. This time they are.
I move that we approve the Fleet quote for $3,240.60, knowing that there's only one bid, but no one else does it
Well,
locally. What do you consider local?
Jeremy's Rochester.
Okay.
I guess I'm seconding it.
Oh, that was, yeah.
All in
Sorry.
favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait.
The next one is the Williamson Law Book Annual Software Support Contract, this we do every year. Neither Melanie or I think this has changed from last year, but it's $1,242.
Did we miss something here?
I don't know.
Lois.
No,
The Lotus is coming.
the fair, this was the Fairways pump.
Right.
Yeah.
I had one question about that before, now that I approved it and made the motion. On Fairways, is that Sodas Point?
We provide water and wastewater.
So do we bill anybody for that, or do they pay a bill here?
Yes, they pay a water bill. They pay a little bit more. We will, at some point, probably in the next quarter, bring a proposal to make them pay a little bit more than they pay today.
Okay, that makes me happy, thank you.
All right, so we're on to the Williamson Law Book Annual Software Support Contract for $1,242. They do get called fairly routinely. They almost got called today, but it was an internal problem.
But you don't know if it's gone up or if it's the same. Right?
I think it's about the same.
I think it's about the same, too.
It's within the budget. But
Yes, yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the quote from Williamson Law Book.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next is the Lotus, and there are 3 resolutions here, but let me first explain what's going on. Because I've had several people ask about this. Does everybody first know what the Lotus is?
Yes.
Yes, but I have a question. On the back of this, I've got a thing for the $9,200 per shelter.
There's 4 of them here.
That was the first one out of those 3,
There's 4.
or 4, I mean.
I don't know what you're looking at, because I don't have it.
This is the authorized Derek fee for the $9,200.
It's just not even 5.
Shelter.
Yeah, that's the New York.
That's different. That's different.
Okay.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's still on the agenda. That's-
Okay.
Letter
Yeah.
F. That's letter F.
It came in,
There.
yeah,
Yeah, they're on the same.
Because that came late too.
okay.
So these 3.
Those two.
The gentleman who's writing the grants for the Friends of the Spring Lotus is here. His
Awesome.
name is Walter Stade. If you have any questions about it.
But essentially, there's a group of people that either were on the Lotus or were friends of the Lotus. Many of them live in Sodas Point, all of them do not. They have formed a nonprofit organization, Friends of the Schooner.
There's
Lotus.
some promotional information about.
begging for
That's
money.
great. Yeah, I'm
Well,
sure.
of course. So,
They were successful in getting the Lotus moved from Caitlin's boatyard, basically uncovered, to a protected area down in the Finger Lakes with a group that can actually do the work. So the first resolution is to support and endorse the Friends of the Schooner Lotus application for grant funding from the New York State Environmental Protection Fund. Whereas the Friends of Schooner Lotus Incorporated are applying for a grant from New York State Environmental Protection Fund to subsidize activities associated with structural repairs and restoration of the Lotus. And whereas once restored and docked at the proposed community pier in Sodas Point, whose future location is still to be determined, the Schooner Lotus will be utilized as a school ship and major attraction for the village and surrounding harbors. And whereas when docked in Sodas Point, the Schooner Lotus will be fully accessible to the public at all times for deck tours. And whereas when out in the water, the Schooner Lotus will offer a variety of onboard activities such as sailing demonstrations, sailing, line handling, navigating and instruction, and lectures on ecology and preservation of upstate waterways in Lake Ontario. And whereas the preservation of the Schooner Lotus will provide historic and ecotourism opportunities in the village, support and enhance the local economy, attract Great Lakes maritime history enthusiasts from across the country and the world. And whereas the Schooner Lotus is a perfect complement to the Maritime History Museum at the historic Lotus, so the historic Sodas Point Lighthouse, and will offer visitors the opportunity to take an immersive, historically based vacation in the village. Whereas the Schooner Lotus will also complement long-established Sodas Bay junior sailing programs by adding another learning opportunity relating to sailing. Now therefore be it resolved that the village, Sodas Point Village Board enthusiastically endorses and supports restoration of the Schooner Lotus. And be it further resolved that the Sodas Point Village Board urges New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to fund this important project.
I attended several of those meetings, and also I know a little bit about this. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for Sodas Point and the children of the area. And I don't think it'll just be Sodas Point. I think it's going to be Monroe County and Syracuse area. And I think this is going to be a great opportunity for education. So I move that we support and endorse Friends of the Schooner Lotus application.
Is there a second?
I have a question to this. This goes from an LWRP plan from 2011.
So you were,
We're not there yet, but
That's
yes.
not the right resolution.
the first one is the,
This is,
Great. Okay, so
Just
that's what I'm
endorsing the Lotus
confused as to what we're actually,
Yeah.
have been reading along with.
yeah. I will second.
I mean, I
the
will-
motion on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
all we're really saying in this first one is we support the organization, we support their mission, and we're asking the Office of Parks
And
to approve.
they've got fundraising going at the 501(c)(3). That's
It's
right.
agreed, yes, not
And
profit corporation.
It's definitely a wonderful opportunity.
Okay, it's just marked at the community pier. Where exactly is?
It says future location is still to be determined.
Okay. Trying to get some clarity because obviously.
Well, in one of the plans that I took over to the county a while back, we talked about it, having it somewhere down near the sheriff's station or Coast Guard station. And saying, so that if you had a museum down there and they were starting to do the shipwreck area and that sort of thing, it could all be cumbersome. And you might be able to transform the bathhouse or add on to the bathhouse a very small.
That's for a museum. He's asking about the dock.
But what I'm saying is, if you had that area developed, so that would be a county mission to put it up. And, but I see lots of opportunity.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Hi.
The next one is titled Reaffirming Sodas Point Downtown Vision Plan. Everybody got it? Whereas in 2006, Sodas Point Village Board adopted the Downtown Vision Plan Whereas goal 3 of the plan entitled Optimize the Opportunities for Public, Physical, and Visual Access to and from the Waterfront in the Downtown states the following. Continue to investigate options for creating a public dock in the downtown, and whereas Friends of the Schooner Lotus are applying for a grant from the New York State Environmental Protection Fund to subsidize activities associated with structural repairs and restoration of the Lotus. And whereas once restored, they would like to dock the Schooner Lotus at a community public dock in Sodas Point, whose future location is still to be determined. And whereas when docked in Sodas Point, the Schooner Lotus will be fully accessible to the public at all times. When out on the water, the Schooner Lotus will offer a variety of onboard activities such as sailing demonstrations, sailing, line handling, navigating, and instruction, and lectures on ecology and preservation of upstate waterways in Lake Ontario. Whereas the establishment of a community public dock is consistent with the downtown vision plan, its stated goals of the plan are still relevant now. Therefore, now be it resolved, the Village of Sodas Point reaffirms the adoption of the 2006 downtown vision plan. This is being
Can I
done.
tell you why you're doing this?
Yeah, thank you.
The New York State Environmental Protection Fund, one of the questions in the CFA is your project consistent with local planning efforts? And if it is, and it is, then you have to show them parts of the relevant plan, highlight it, and include it as a part of the uploads, documents that you upload. However, we could have a relevant plan that still has relevant goals and relevant objectives, but it's older than 5 years. So they want, the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation wants you to reaffirm those plans if those plans are older than 5 years. Otherwise, you can't use them to support your project.
Is there a document that spells that out? Because it seems strange that you would have to reaffirm something from, because we've been acting on it. I mean,
Yeah, it's in the grant application.
There's something in the grant application. that
Oh,
actually says that.
absolutely. It says it in the instructions. If the plan is more than 5 years old, you must reaffirm it to prove to them that you still believe that the plan is relevant.
The LWRP doesn't do that.
Doesn't do what?
It's 2012
It's a
or
2000, yeah.
2011. So
Both of our documents for planning are way out of date.
we're gonna do that again.
And we're updating the LWRP right now, but the one that you have that's adopted is more than 5 years old, but it's still the one that you operate from until the new one is adopted by you.
I guess my concern would be that these are so old. I mean, you know, 2006 and 2012.
Have you read the downtown vision plan?
No, not
Okay, so
2012.
so the downtown vision plan has,
Well, now, sure, hold on, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I totally trust what you're saying, but I just got these resolutions this afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay, we just got these today. We've had no time to look at this and to go over the plan right now and make a vote on it. I think it's premature. I'm not saying yay or nay. I just don't have any information on it, and to take a 10-minute glance over and then vote on something, whether or not that plan is still relevant today, I think is hasty.
We just implemented portions of the downtown vision plan with Ready project. And honestly, I
Did
think
they
it's
make you reaffirm?
pardon?
Did they make you reaffirm?
That was a completely different program.
it's only Parks and Recreation that makes you do this. It's standard operating procedure. They've been doing it for,
Yeah, I would know that. I'm not a part.
And I'm sure you're well versed in it. Once again, I'm just saying, we just got this today.
But as a trustee, I would have thought you would have read all of our plans that are out on the website, including this.
yeah, this is only.
You know how long the LWRP is?
I have read the
The downtown-
LWRP,
the
not once,
downtown-
but twice.
The downtown vision plan is
It's
only
short.
like 7 or 8 pages long.
I read it. I read it.
If it'll help cut to the chase on this thing, plan that you have in place is the operating plan. All you're doing is reaffirming what you've already got in place. It's not like you're gonna change anything. It is what it is.
So there's absolutely no implications to anything else that's going on right
You're just
now.
reaffirming what's already in play.
Just want to clarify.
Later, But
Yeah.
for now, you're just reaffirming what's been in play for 10 years.
And all the projects in the LWRP today that aren't complete are proposed to be in the new LWRP, plus a whole lot more.
So this is, you're saying that these are just paperwork so that you
Yes.
can move forward with your application for this grant?
Well, it's not my, I'm helping. I'm
The
helping.
overall application for this.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not
this
saying it's
is-
on you, Sharon.
No, that's, and I'm perfectly willing to have it be on, but it's, yeah, this is pretty much non-negotiable with Parks and Recreation. And communities have to do this in order to, in order to communicate to Parks and Rec that it's consistent with plans they have already adopted.
The understanding from legal, I'll make a motion that we adopt it.
I'm wondering why, and I'm sorry,
What?
just why we don't say, and that we're updating it. We're in the process of updating.
We're not talking about LWRP.
No, but we refer to the one in 2011, and I think there should be recognition.
We're
for
doing
the
this
one-
one first.
We're not doing that one right now. We're doing downtown vision plan.
And
The
then
downtown vision plan's flawed, it's involved in litigation right now. I think reaffirming at village level is,
The village is not party to any litigation.
well, there's problems with it. I have problems with it with my property that planning board approved. One thing, that somebody built something else and they're using the downtown vision plan to support it when it was 11 years old when it was allowed. So, I mean, there's issues there. It's a dated plan. And a lot of that stuff, I mean, and we contradict on a monthly basis here, blocking waterfront views or watershed views. And, we've sold off Irwin Street access, which is water access, which is against LWRP. We've restricted ice fishermen by restricting the right of way and parking on Craig Street so people can't go out on Main Lane because there's nowhere to park. We've allowed our basketball court to get closed down so that it doesn't.
This isn't
None of
this
these
isn't your
none
time
of
to
these are
speak.
in the downtown vision.
Those are all in the downtown vision
No.
plan. And
They're
there's
not.
No,
problems.
they're not.
They're not there.
Well,
Phil,
All right.
I was on the committee in 2006.
No, well,
They were not.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion.
I'd like to hear what Art's ready to
If
do.
it'll clean this up with everybody, why don't you just add in there for the purpose of applying for whatever grant it is. the last one.
solely for the purpose of.
Well, not solely, but Village of Sodas Point reaffirms for the purposes of whatever the project name is. Sharon, I think that would work, right, if it moves this thing forward.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. to
I
be
amend
able
my
to-
motion to what he said. I agree.
Is there a second? Is there further discussion? All we're trying to do is to help a local organization get a grant to start some repair
For
work.
what will be an enormous economic development opportunity for this village, which is the basis for the downtown vision plan.
So we've got a motion on the floor and we've added for the amended. Do we need a second on the amendment?
We don't have a second on the motion.
Okay,
Bill amended his motion.
okay, so, okay, you're good, okay. And Art's comments,
Bill amended his motion to what Art said.
right, but I want to hear what Art said.
For the purpose of
Yeah.
the application for this, of this project.
Correct.
I'll second it.
Any
I gotta
further?
get a.
Of the Lotus project, is that it?
That's right, in here, it's third one.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bud?
I'll abstain because I don't have any information. Not Steve. Yeah, I just don't have the information.
Deborah?
With what? I don't.
All right, I'll approve it.
So are you abstaining?
Yes.
Or no, okay.
Now we have virtually the same motion for the LWRP. This title on the top of this one is reaffirming 2012 Village of Sodas Point Local Waterfront Revitalization Program. Don't really plan to read it since it says essentially the same thing the other two did. Unless somebody would like me to.
I think you should add that for the purpose of the Schooner Lotus project on this one too. It'll work.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
And then,
All in favor?
Aye.
Bud?
I'll stay once again.
Jennifer?
Yeah, abstain.
I'll vote for it. I would encourage all of you to read all of the plans, however outdated, on our website. That is the basis by which we operate today, good, bad, or not. And yes, some of them do contradict one another. That's the reality of life. All right, the last thing on our agenda. Don't sit down too far. Well, the last thing on our agenda is to award the contract for the outdoor shared dining shelter.
I would really like to see what one of these looks like. I don't know.
You have seen it before, and maybe it's in here, or maybe it isn't.
No, I don't have a picture of it.
I don't believe I have, and I've been on the board a year and a half.
It's all part of the New York Main Street project.
It was a PowerPoint.
I'm trying to figure out how you could possibly spend $9,200 for shelter. Or 3 shelters, $9,200 each. You can get some pretty nice metal stuff, $1,500 that we can paint. If they go bad, I worry about wasps. I worry about how we're gonna take care of these. I have not seen a picture of it. If I have, I think I would have remembered it.
You have, but I'll get you another one.
Thank you.
And I want to point out, you had said 3, but it's 6.
No,
No,
the approval's
they-
only for 3.
Oh,
They
okay.
originally asked for 6, but the approval was for 3.
Okay, so what, isn't the bid?
We
Did the
asked,
bid
yeah.
have-
Yes.
So, yeah, so the price of materials has gone up from the time that we submitted the grant application. And we thought we could build 6, and then we had an inflationary hit. And we
This is
could
what's
not
proposed to be
build
built.
6. Yeah.
And why would we want something like that? That is the first time I've ever seen that. So that I don't remember it now. Maybe it was because it was my first meeting or second
Well,
meeting.
you authorized the application to the New
Yeah.
York Main Street program to do a market study and to build shared outdoor dining shelters.
Well, and I don't have a problem with that, but this is the first time I've seen what outdoor dining shelter looks like.
Well, you can pass this around.
Yeah, what does this,
There were specs.
Yeah, no,
They were on the
no,
website.
the $9,200, what, does that just include the roof canopy area, or does that include the concrete?
It's the entire structure.
It's all inclusive of the structure. The bid specifications have been posted on the website since June 3rd.
Kevin repriced the materials list recently.
Did you guys not check your website for the bid specifications? Because they've been there for 2 months.
Well, yeah, we have nothing else to do.
Well, that's not the
If
point.
somebody-
What's so funny about that?
If you tell us that it's there, and we need to take a look at it, I'm glad to do any of that. I will do all the research that's necessary. But I can't do it all, and I'm not gonna spend hours looking for it. Half the time I can't find what I'm looking for on there anyways. But,
It was advertised in your official newspaper as well.
well, I get the times. Usually
It
if
was
it's
in there.
there, Tom will tell me. First of all, we only have the one bid. I have not, and I know it's because of lack of interest. Where were those, how
So
did
we
the public
do
know?
our-
The board didn't even know.
How could you not know?
I knew you were looking at them, but I had no idea that
I
they were
just can't-
$9,200.
Well, we just learned that a couple days ago too. That's not the point. The cost of pressure treated lumber has gone up tremendously since these.
That's true.
Bid specs were, and that's what most of the material is. Concrete's gone up tremendously. I don't know about steel roofing. I haven't tried to do anything with that.
Cement's crazy too, right? But
Cement is up there, yeah. But it says in there, it says concrete pad bid separately.
Which it was not.
It was
included.
not.
It
So
says,
that-
it says.
so that is-
That's a,
Let
that's
me-
a 2021 back.
So that's the grant application. They required us to put a preliminary bid spec together in the grant application to be funded. But that bid spec had to
You're right, I
be
did.
completely redone.
It was a whole PowerPoint.
And it was approved
Yeah,
by
I
the
did see
state,
this, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
before we advertised.
sorry.
And then when we,
I'm sorry, I did see it, I'm sorry.
She was laughing at this thing.
All right, I'll read this while you're all looking through that book. Whereas the village of Sodas Point prepared a bid package for the construction of 6 shared outdoor dining shelters to be funded by a grant from New York Main Street Program. And whereas the bid document was approved by New York Main Street Program staff and subsequently advertised in the village's official paper on June 5th with a bid submission due date of June 30th. Whereas the bid document also was posted in the Village Sodas Point website, whereas when little interest was shown in the project, the village contacted New York Main Street staff and received instructions to directly contact local contractors. The village reached out to 8 local contractors and 4 contractors requested the bid documents. Whereas only 1 contractor responded with a bid price of $9,200 per shelter. And whereas at the direction of New York Main Street Program staff, village staff checked Home Depot determined if the bid price, including materials, was consistent with prevailing construction costs, and it was determined that the bid was a fair and reasonable price. And whereas New York Main Street staff, program staff asked the village to submit a contractor solicitation log, a third-party estimate, which was obtained from Home Depot, a signed non-collusion statement, and a signed conflict of interest certification memo. And whereas upon review of the submitted information, New York Main Street Program staff authorized the Village of Sodas Point to enter into a contract with the sole bidder. And whereas the remaining New York Main Street grant budget will allow the construction of 3 shelters instead of the originally planned 6. And whereas New York Main Street Program staff has accepted this revision in the program budget and authorized the village to reduce the number of shelters to 3. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Sodas Point Board authorizes the mayor to enter into a contract with Derek Bean to construct 3 outdoor dining shelters along the east periphery of Oscar First Park at a cost of $9,200 per shelter. And the total cost for 3 shelters not to exceed $27,600. And be it further resolved that the total cost should be paid for by New York Main Street grant funds awarded to the village in 2020.
I'm sorry, did you say?
I said, so once again, we lose more ballpark.
Yeah, and I don't understand why those weren't earmarked for roofing.
it's
Just
not
because,
enough room in the little park. It's
I
been
think they-
Oscar for First Park from the right.
Yes,
from the
it has.
beginning.
you're right.
And nobody said, ooh, about putting them in the little park until just now.
And they'll be outside the 270 feet for the ball field.
Here's what I've seen, okay? We get all this stuff and then the next thing you know, the maintenance is a problem. And I'll give you a perfect example of it. Or there's bees in something and nobody's taking care of it. When we looked at the playground, part of the problem was the pavers. Our people have to go around each one of those pavers to get them cleaned up in the spring, and it's hours of maintenance. And my concern is not only the cost, I think this is an exorbitant amount of money for such a project, but it's also the maintenance, and there's never a plan such as with that beautiful launch we've got for special needs people. You can't ask for a finer launch anywhere. And if it wasn't for Hoppy, who I would like to recognize, who works, you never find him not working. He's always working. If I could give a prize for our employees, he'd be the one because he's amazing. But the bottom line on this is a lot of money, and I know it's not coming right directly out of our pocket, but it's sure coming out of another pocket. And if you're not getting something that's got a plan for care, why are we doing it? I mean, it's a great thing for 2 years.
How come nobody asked me this question when I was spending 40 hours writing this grant application?
I absolutely agree with you, and I'm sorry.
I
I
knew I
can't,
was doing it. Everybody, every member of the village board knew we were doing this grant application, and the question of maintenance never once came up. And now we're at the 11th hour, and all of a sudden, that's the roadblock.
well, the
I don't
roadblock is
understand.
also the price.
Well, the price has been confirmed as being a fair price, given the economic conditions that exist today. And the state of New York agreed with it.
Well, I think they're a neat addition, don't get me wrong, but I just, now I guess, I mean, if it comes up, somebody makes a motion, I'm gonna vote for it because it's gonna help our downtown area and such as that, without a doubt. But my feelings are, everybody's known since I was a weeble, that Oscar First Field is our baby, and slowly, bit by bit, we're losing pieces of it, and I just want to make sure that it doesn't get turned into blacktop.
It can't.
That's it.
It can't.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what,
It can't.
stranger shit, excuse me, stuff has happened. So,
Didn't it have cement under the bottom, on the bottom?
No.
Ours didn't, so there's no cement bottom.
Oh, and these, I'm sorry, I thought you were
Yes.
talking about the field. Yes, there's a cement bottom on there. And that's included in the $9,000.
Is there an opportunity to wait for the costs to come down, or do we have a?
Your contract expires the end of September, or the middle of September. As it stands right now, I'm gonna have to ask for a second extension.
not to mention, you're not going to see things drop within
Yeah.
the next couple of years.
Lumber's come down, but steel's been staying steady,
Yeah.
and concrete is accelerating, so whatever's been saved in lumber has been
One
lost.
way
in
goes the other
concrete,
way.
so, I've known about it since we were awarded this grant, and I know there's been a lot of things going on here, and, it's unfortunate that, the units have been halved because of the inflation that we've experienced, but,
I remember
at
the
the end of the day,
president.
what I'm seeing here, and it's just like with the LWRP reaffirming that and reaffirming the downtown vision plan, we need better information to our boards, is what I think is happening. I mean, you're in your zone, looking through your lens, and Dave's looking through his lens, and this stuff coming, 10:30 in the morning, resolutions, the day of votes and stuff. I think our board just needs more information. I remember seeing a plan, but I paid attention, a lot more. I bought something
And I actually wrote a note this morning saying, is there any
All I'm
information on
hearing
this?
here tonight is we need better communication with our board members, and they gotta be kept in the loop.
When we got the resolutions, we forwarded them. Unfortunately, they're time sensitive.
Well, it's not so much resolution, Dave. I mean, there should have been, all right, so we had 6. I saw the plan for the original 6. You had to go through the environmental review, which I cited on there. I didn't know they got reduced to 3, so we haven't seen a new site plan to see where they're going.
We don't know where they're going exactly. That needs to be determined.
It just got reduced to 3 because,
Yeah.
and it was reduced to 3 because that's the way the bids came.
So we don't know where we're going, but we gotta award this bid and we gotta get it done.
We have a site plan down there for 6 of them.
Yeah.
So we reduced
Yeah, the same
the footprint by taking
Yeah, so we'll pick 3
you know,
locations for
the
it.
ends
Run
off.
by the
with
firemen
all these
and-
condensing in
What was the
middle. We
original
have a
bid
site
on
So, I
5,200?
mean, I think
Six in my
maybe
mind.
that's it.
We didn't get
They're
it
missing the
originally.
site plan.
There's
We
only
just
one
looked for our
bid.
estimate.
The original estimate
It's in the
was
grant.
in that book. It was a lot lower. I mean, it was a good 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, but it
I got
hasn't
one.
been
I'm
Yeah.
grown adults.
Yeah.
You babysit.
I made the.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
All right, we're gonna wait, folks. Jennifer's made a motion. Bill has seconded it.
What color are they?
All
They
in
match the
favor?
gazebo? Can we all match the gazebo?
Camo, so we can't see them.
Okay, so I made a motion, Bill made a second, all in favor. Just say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem with them.
You second it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say aye.
Yes.
What's your vote, Lori?
I see the benefit of them. I am really concerned with the price of them. I think that we should, do we have to go with this person that has bid?
We can go through the whole rebidding process again if that's what you want to do. I cannot guarantee that you're gonna be able to have a contract extension, because the grounds for the contract extension are if you can show that you are making substantial progress on the project.
And you got the,
So,
Well, we
you know,
got three.
and I don't want to
Well,
speak
yeah.
for the state, that's what they said.
Yeah, the grants expired, the grants have time.
Right, but
Yeah.
I'm saying this is great, money. This is not coming out of the budget, so.
No, I submitted a new budget to the state
I
and they
would,
accepted it.
okay, I'll approve that.
So you're saying aye.
Aye.
thank
And
you.
now I'd like to make another motion that nothing starts on this till we have a plan of how that's gonna be repaired or maintained.
Just sprayed in there.
Spray.
Spiders there.
We
Spiders.
did- I just want to throw it out there. They brought it to our attention that there were bees and it was called and he came down and he did spray it. You had said it didn't get taken care of. I just want to let you know the
Oh.
highway department.
They're
they
great.
cleaned That and then.
Okay.
And the kayak
sprayed
launch has been
it.
taken care of all summer long.
And
So
it looked pretty bad there for a while. And Hoppy went down and took care of us.
So are we making a motion to adjourn?
no, we need to pay the bills. We need to pay the bills. And Melanie's gotta do that.
So we have claims, 7-1 through 762, total of $212,382. Of that, general was $160,085, water $29,993, and wastewater $22,300.
I move we pay our bills before they shut the lights off.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business?
The only thing I have, this area that's next to the building out here. You know, we've seen advertisements about pickleball starting. That blacktop would be an ideal spot to put like a pickleball court or maybe two of them, and the people that are using it, and this is just a thought, the people that are playing pickleball aren't 18-year-old kids that are gonna be out here at 10 o'clock at night. Just an idea there. I'm done.
It's a great idea. It's taking a whole lot.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I just realized I can't say no vote. You either have to say abstain or
Abstain.
Okay, that was from there.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And did we get that we'll have did we
adjourn?
did we approve that we would have a plan for taking care of it?
Yeah, the highway
If we
department
don't,
will
have next
take care of it.
Believe me.
I motion to adjourn.
They're well aware of it.
Plan. Just looking for a document here.
Just an instance. I took a new job.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Second to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. All in favor to adjourn?
A year and a half ago, it was $4,500. $9,600 now,
Yeah.
and nothing's available.